ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Retro Warriors, episode 345. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard Chris Saturn.
Hello.
We do have housekeeping.
We do.
First of all, Guy is here. Well, he's not here right now. He actually went to make a sandwich right now. Yeah, he's getting a sandwich, and he's going to hang out for the show, but he's going to be on the after party after the end of the show, so please stay tuned for Guy to come. I would say yell at me about something, but I don't know what he could yell at me about.
Maybe he's going to tell us what kind of sandwich he had.
I was going to say, maybe he'll tell us about the sandwich. Also, you may notice that we are back on the original chiptune version of our theme song.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no real major reason for switching back to it. It's just fun. We just wanted to.
Yeah.
I decided that it would be fun and that I would enjoy to have it.
It'd been a while.
Yeah, and the heavy metal theme, which was made by one of our Discord denizens, Tamachan87, which I think is also
one of our patrons.
Also one of our patrons, and I believe that's also his Bandcamp name. If you want to go get those heavy metal versions, you can still listen to them. We might go back to them sometime later, but I just want to change a pace.
Yeah.
And we had a new theme song submitted from a friend of the show. I wanted to use it as the main theme. I was overruled, so as a compromise, we've switched back to the chiptune theme, and that theme I think is going to end up being our after hours theme.
Okay. Did we do a Patreon poll on it?
No, but After Hours doesn't have a theme.
That's fair.
So I think it's going to be our After Hours theme. So then every show has its own theme song.
That's fair.
And there are some theme song related things in the works that may or may not coalesce into something. But anyway, long story short, we're on the chiptune theme. I hope you like it. If you don't, then that is real bad.
You'll get used to it. It's fine.
My week, I have somehow figured out a way. I've tricked the system, Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
I've figured out a way to talk about card games by talking about video games.
All right, well, I'm going to take a little nap then.
No, they're video games, I swear. So I saw this game called Cardboard Kings. Mm-hmm. It's cardboard with a K.
Yeah.
And it was pitched as a card shop simulator.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can already...
I remember hearing you say something about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can already imagine what it is going to be like. You open little packs of cards and you buy them on the little in-game version of eBay and you try to sell them at a markup and make money and yada, yada, yada. And new sets come out and then old cards get less valuable. It's your standard kind of store simulator type game.
Awful.
I like those games.
Oh.
I like all the Kairosoft ones, like Game Dev Story. They have the ones where you run the malls and you do the other stuff, and you just try to make a profit, you know.
But you're not having to turn around and go to eBay afterwards. That makes it sound so much worse.
Well, it's the in-game version of eBay, and there's only like 10 things on it per day, so it's not really that hard. They didn't like approximate real eBay.
That's good.
It's just
garbage.
It's just like, hey, here's these handful of things. Which ones do you think are going to be worth more? And you go look on the calendar and be like, oh, on Friday, McDonald's, the in-game version of McDonald's is giving away blue cards and Happy Meals, so blue cards are going to be worth less on that day. So I'm going to buy this color cards. It's just a fun financial thing. The issue was it didn't want to be like a fun store simulator first. It wanted to be a story-based game.
Oh.
With lots of dialogue.
Oh, you love that. Were there a lot of ellipses too?
I hit the credit roll in 90 minutes.
Okay.
But there's apparently more story, but I'm just not interested in the story. And all the character models are like very weird looking. I don't know. I really what I wanted was basically like one of those little Kairosoft games, or like Game Dev Tycoon,
right,
or like you know anything, but running a card shop because I like cards,
right.
And it just the simulator part of it wasn't quite there. It was really just like buy low, sell high. You know
it was window dressing for the story.
Yeah, and it was like, it looked like there might be some depth. Like you could run events like, oh, a new set for the card game is coming out. So you can run an event and try to open a bunch of stuff. But it just there was not enough depth.
Yeah, I was just watching a video essay about how bartering as a game concept was starting to become more common. as far as like a central game concept instead of just a side concept like it is in like The Witcher or something. So
Yeah.
I wonder if this is that kind of game that is just flowing into that.
I don't know. And I don't know. It just wasn't. It didn't feel great.
Yeah.
It felt tedious to play after a couple hours, and I ended up returning it. If you're in the mood for like a very light simulator and are interested in the graphics and kind of oddball storytelling in it, then I would recommend it.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, I want Game Dev Tycoon, but I'm running a little game store, it's not that. It's not
that's a
that,
shame.
which is unfortunate. Also, my next card game I'm going to talk about Saturday.
Well, you never talk about card games.
I know. I was talking to a guy just the other day because I mentioned this game to him. I was like, hey, this game's coming out. And he was like, that looks cool. And I was like, I'm so glad card games are coming back. They're a huge comeback.
Yeah.
Because I loved card games. Anyway, this one, it's called Soulforge Fusion.
Okay.
And I've been playing it in Tabletop Simulator, thus video games, because Tabletop Simulator is a video game.
Oh, I see.
Saturn.
You know, you've talked a lot about the other one that is physical only on the show. So you're allowed to talk about things that aren't video games.
No. I've changed the rules.
Oh, my bad.
This one is a new card game coming out. It is non-collectible and procedurally generated, which means every deck is different.
Okay.
You cannot like customize them, so there's no like, oh, this is a rare card and this one's a $10. You just buy the deck and you're like, this is your deck. And it's created by algorithm within like a framework of limits to make it actually functional.
Yeah.
Right. But there's 4 factions. You get one deck from 2 different factions and you shuffle them together and that's your deck. And if you don't like it, you take them apart and you shuffle them with a different faction, and then just that's it. That's the game.
Yeah.
And I've been having a good time with it. It's getting a physical release in like April, May-ish range.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit of it on Tabletop Simulator, and it's a good time. I mean, it's just you play little creatures and you fight them against their creatures, and then when your creatures hit them enough, they die and you win.
That's good.
But the idea of like no deck building, no rarity. It's just you paid $8, you got a deck. This is your deck, and you mix it with another deck, and then that's what you play with.
That's way more appealing to me than most card games. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's also such a low barrier to entry, you know, like if, not saying you would, but like if I come over to your house, I'm like, hey, play this game with me. You go, all right, I got my 2 decks, I shuffle them together, and then we are playing the game.
Yeah.
There's no like power. It's not like, well, I've got a $700 deck with all these good cards. It's the same power level, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So I like that. I'm really interested in it. It is designed by Richard Garfield, who designed games such as Robo Rally and Netrunner, also something called Magic the Gathering.
I don't know what that is.
And the guy that made the deck building game Ascension, which tabletop people may know of. It's been around for a minute. So I've been having a good time with that. Anyone that's like, hey, I like, you know, the idea of playing a card game and playing my little monsters and fighting guys, but I don't want to have to like track down a $400 card at some point.
Yeah.
I would recommend looking into it, especially since the last procedurally generated card game, Keyforge, is now dead because they were keeping their algorithm to produce the cards on Google Drive, and they fired the employee that had it on their Google Drive and deleted their Google Drive, thus tanking the...
Wow.
I just realized you never heard that.
No,
that was big. Yeah.
That's a special level of competence as well.
And so now Fantasy Flight Games, now Asmodee, now Embracer Group is like, oh, well, we got to rebuild the whole game.
How do you fuck that up?
I don't know.
First of all, you should never, ever, ever let an employee store anything on their personal cloud
Now, to be fair, this is all still not definitive. This is hearsay from internal people that had internal insight discussing it after the fact. Now, we do know they lost the algorithm because they came out publicly and they were like, hey, about that game we've been making for 3 years now, we can't make it anymore because we lost the algorithm. Apparently it was, and they had a backup, but then they got hit with ransomware. It was just this is all what has trickled out from people in the know. But the official statement is it broke. We will fix. Please wait.
So just for anybody who is starting a small business out there, don't let any of your employees ever put anything on their personal cloud storage. If you do need to put something on cloud storage, make sure that the company as a whole is paying for it, so that if that employee leaves, you can restore it, because that's part of your contract.
So yeah, now Keyforge was a similar type thing. It was procedurally generated, so each deck you just bought the deck, and that was your deck. And if you didn't like it, you bought a different one.
Right.
And then their algorithm's gone Saturn.
God. Very professional.
They're not a small company. They just to be clear, it wasn't some fly. It wasn't like me and you made a card game. They were like a big Fantasy Flight's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm aware of them.
They're one of the biggest tabletop companies.
Didn't they make the Civilization board game not long ago?
Probably. Honestly, if it's a board game and you've heard of it, they've probably made it.
Yeah, because I want to say that their logo is on it, and I've got it in the other room, but I don't. It's way over there.
Yeah. Anyway, that's me. Just again, consumed by cardboard and cardboard related things lately. That's been my life.
Nice. I'm still trying to finish my run through the modern Tomb Raider trilogy, inspired by Guy's run through them.
Yes, I've been seeing you playing them nonstop.
It's not really. It's more that I leave them on nonstop.
Oh, is that it?
And then I get distracted and do other things, and I come back and realize that Laura has been staring at this one artifact for 3.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But no, I'm on to the third game now, which is the only one that is native for the Series X. It's not just a emulated Xbox One game. It's a native Series X game, and let me tell you, it looks gorgeous. It's 4K 60 frames a second. That's just great.
Every second?
It occasionally dips, according to the guys at Digital Foundry, who know these things way better than I do. Right. They said it occasionally dips to nearly 50 frames a second, but very rarely, and only during animated cutscenes is when it seems to dip the most, during major exciting story events. But during gameplay, they said it tends to stay right at 60, which I believe it. It seems very smooth.
So only at the tensest, most exciting moments is the frame rate.
Right. Only when everything is happening at once.
Right.
However, it is also the least fluid of any of them so far. Like
gameplay wise?
Yeah, because in all of them there's been like these obvious loading areas, like when you're in between zones, like she'll have to like go sideways through a crack in the wall or something to get into a cave.
And they use it to mask the loading.
Right. And in this one, there's some areas that are just huge open areas. And in one of them, every time I walk this one path between a save point and a door, the game just freezes and the word loading appears on the screen. And I'm like, this is the one that has the optimized solid state drive, guys. This is the one. And also, for this HDR 4K beautiful experience, this is the only one with lighting glitches. Like, occasionally I'm in a cave or in a building, and there's just one stripe of what looks like sunlight just flickering somewhere in the corner. And I'm like, that's completely breaking my immersion.
Ray tracing!
Right?
They were tracing those rays so hard it went through stones.
Yeah, it just went right into the building. But the gameplay wise is fine. Like, gameplay wise is really neat. Like, her tool set for movement is the best so far, and I appreciate that because that's my favorite part of the game. One thing I've noticed is the DLC, because I'd picked up the full DLC package for like $10 or something, and it's interspersed into the game rather than it all being at the end. It's just like, now you can go do this DLC mission. If you go talk to this person, there'll be a side story. And I have noticed that all the other areas in the game, like when you get to the end of the tomb, there's then like a path that you can use to get back to the rest of the world, or to the hub area, or to something. And in all the DLC areas, you get to the end and it's just like, congratulations, and it teleports you back.
You did it!
Right?
Bye!
And so it's a little weird, but it's
jarring.
Right. But they are also the most interesting areas, because they have the most interesting puzzles in them, because clearly they had already built out all of the game's mechanics before they did those. So it does feel a little more robust. But there's just some weird glitches in it for being the only native game on this high-end console. I am a little concerned by its performance so far.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, still fun,
but still
game.
Overall enjoyable.
Yeah, still having fun with it. The story seems to be a little weird compared to the last two. I will say I like the aesthetic, though, because the first one was on an island off the coast of Japan, and
Mhm.
was all like Asian themed, but Asian from like hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And then the second one was in Siberia, but themed after
Yetis.
not Polynesian. What is the word I'm looking for?
Super Yetis.
It was a lot of Greek stuff.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it was people who had migrated from that area over to Siberia, and then this one is in Mayan temples and Incan temples. So
yeah, I like that stuff. I
yeah.
really like Mesoamerican kind of stuff.
There's a lot of that stuff, and it's really neat.
Oddly underrepresented in games,
right?
Interestingly enough,
but no, they do a really good job as far as animating all of it, so it actually does look legit, like things from that part of the world should look, and I appreciate that.
That's cool. Let's do some news.
Y'all.
First up, Platinum Games' new CEO pushes for bigger, riskier games. That's good, as well as live service games. That's bad.
However, they also said that they are not doing any NFTs, and in the process, they called out Konami as being greedy.
I'm going to start referring to this as the EA conundrum, which is that your company doesn't have to do better.
Right.
You just have to not sink to the new low that the rest of the industry has hit.
Right.
When we realized the floor was just made of saran wrap and we've now fucking ripped through it and now we're selling monkey JPEGs.
Yeah.
Like that. You just have to not be as bad as Ubisoft or Konami.
Right.
And you look great. Yeah. And it's frustrating because you don't want to praise them for being like NFTs are fucking stupid because you're like, of course they are. That's like them being like, we're not going to drive to every customer's house and stab them in the face.
Right.
You're not going to be like, good on them for not. You'd be like, you shouldn't.
Right.
Why would you?
We're not going to kill any kittens. Like, yeah, that's good. I guess.
You mean you're going to continue to not kill any kittens? We will move toward not killing kittens with future policy.
Future products will have a strict no kitten harming policy.
We will perform an internal investigation spearheaded by us.
Yeah. I hate the whole idea of internal investigation.
I'm imagining a credits roll that's like, less kittens were harmed in the making. Less? What is it? Yeah, so it you know, there's got to be a term for like not praising them for saying that. You know, like good job saying that, good job not sinking to that low, but also I'm not going to lower my standard to act like it would ever be acceptable for you to do that in the first place.
Right.
You know. Not excited about it. Like Platinum Games is not super well known for like, I don't know, making projects that seem big enough to handle the live service model.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any of their games that would even fit that.
They seem pretty, they do really good, like AA tier third-party games. And that's what they're known for, like good third-party action games.
Right.
And I feel like them transitioning to live service would be them changing the kind of experiences that they've been producing. And that concerns me.
And for
obviously
people,
it could be good. I don't know, but
right.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know the Platinum Games name off the top of their head, just as an example, they did Nier Automata, they did Bayonetta, Wonderful 101, what are some others?
The one with the guy, he's in hell and he's got a shotgun and his friend is a skull. Didn't they do that?
Is that Shadows of the Damned?
Maybe. Wasn't that them?
No.
Oh, who was that?
That was hell. No, I don't remember who that was.
I don't remember either. But they make good action games.
I know.
What
EA
was that? Was that one?
it.
Astral Chains?
Oh yeah, Astral Chain was one of theirs.
That was one of their more recent ones.
Yep, that was on Switch.
They just make good third-party action games, and I
yeah.
don't know that translates well to live service games.
Right.
Sony says they have at least 10 live service games in development. Fuck me!
Right? Yeah, they said
Jesus
this.
Christ.
They said this as part of their announcement when they had bought Bungie, which I believe we talked about last week.
Right.
And they
have
had
10 Destiny sequels.
Yeah, they were like, Bungie is going to help guide us along the path of making successful live service games because we have 10 in development. Like, that seems like a lot for a company that doesn't normally do them.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, Bungie is not celebrated in the space for making the best live service game decisions. They're kind of known for like being a little slow to react and adapt to things. At least what I'm judging from the fan community in Destiny that I've unfortunately had to encounter briefly in my time playing the game.
But don't worry, they're going to totally guide Sony's 10 projects.
Yeah, people. I mean, granted, they've certainly made it profitable live service games. Destiny 2 seems to be doing great.
Maybe that's all they were really after was profitability.
Yeah, if we're being honest. Ultima Online celebrates 25 years. With veteran rewards and other special items, this game is still going on. It's still getting content updates.
Right. I had to look it up. I did not believe that it was still on, but it is.
There's a free-to-play version. It's run by some third-party company now.
It's a division of EA.
Yeah, but it's like it's some like subsidiary that's like totally separate from them.
Yeah, it is. It is a subsidiary of EA that is unrelated to EA itself. But
right, they're basically just like these people over in this corner, and they're like, "You run it."
And they also run another EA, another one that was acquired by EA. It's not Dark Age of Camelot. I don't think. I don't remember who it is, but
Asheron's Call, is that one still going? Is that one dead?
I don't remember which one it is, but another one of those games that EA acquired and now runs. But it's just weird to think that they're even still running.
They said that, and I was like, I'm gonna go try to play some Ultima Online. Like I was too young for it, and I went and I looked it up, and I was like, oh god, no, I'm not. No, I'm good. But yeah, it's still running. There's a free-to-play version that apparently is pretty, like, not unlimited, but it's pretty generous.
Oh, it is. Dark Age of Camelot is the other one that they do. Ultima Online and Dark Age of Camelot.
There you go. That's still running? You can still play Dark Age of Camelot?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
And I think it also has a free-to-play now.
Like, I don't know why that's more shocking to me. I guess it's more shocking to me because Ultima was so iconic.
Right.
Like, of course, that one would run for 25 years because there'd still be a couple thousand people playing it, and they pay $15 a month, and that's money.
Right.
But Dark Age of Camelot was not.
Yeah.
It's not. People aren't like, oh, think of major MMOs. Nobody's like, Dark Age of Camelot. Like, it's not as well remembered.
Apparently, the new company is Broadsword. Which is a division of EA.
And then finally, the Nintendo Direct happened.
True.
And there was a lot of retro news packed into it.
Yes.
Starting with, it ended with, but we're going to start with Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings coming to Nintendo Switch Online, which is good to see. Came to, already there. I don't know why it took so fucking long.
Right.
They've also made the guide available in PDF form on some website somewhere.
No, it's just still available.
It just never went away.
They never took it down, and that link that is being traded around is still references Wii U in its URL.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So that's good. You know, Earthbound on more platforms.
True.
Chrono Cross to receive a remaster on all platforms. With new conveniences, features, and touched-up graphics. Also features all new music arrangements from the original composer. I think they also have, like, fast-forward options.
Well, it already had fast-forward in the original game.
Did it? I guess I never played enough of it
you had to
fast-forward.
In the original game, you had to finish the game to get to fast-forward.
Oh, yeah, no, never did that.
You had to... That way you could play New Game Plus, because there's 46 characters to recruit, and you can't get them all in one run. You have to do multiple runs to get them. So they let you fast forward for any subsequent runs. In this new version, they'll let you fast forward from the beginning, which is nice.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the I want to play Chrono Cross, but I've also had a lot of false starts with it because I feel like because it's that kind of PS1 era of later JRPGs that are like real slow. Just everything's slow. Kind of that Final Fantasy IX syndrome of like it's a good game, but man, just literally everything has so much animation.
Oh yeah, yeah, and if I'm probably going to pick it up just because I have plenty of Microsoft Rewards points, so I can just grab it.
I thought you were going to say a problem.
Yeah, I do have a problem. That is true. That's also an accurate statement. No, so I'll probably give it a shot. But when it first came out, I played it I think 4 or 5 times back to back just to unlock everybody and just experience it over and over again. Because if nothing else, the soundtrack is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But every time I've tried to play it since then, I can't. It's just too slow. It's too slow, and I'm hoping that fast forward from the beginning can help that.
If it speeds it up enough to make it palatable, I'll probably pick it up too because I'd like to play it. Live Alive,
Live Alive.
Live Alive. Front Mission and Front Mission 2 are all coming to Switch. Live Alive will be in the HD 2D style.
Yes.
So lots of good RPGs.
I'm pretty excited about Live Alive because that's
I
a
know
great game.
literally nothing about that one.
Okay, it's
like not a thing.
It was also a big Square 16-bit RPG on the Super NES.
Now that one's never come out in America, right?
Correct.
This is its first release. This was one of those famous lost games.
Yes, and it's a highly respected game, a highly lauded game. It's had a fan translation for quite a while now, which is good. It's a good fan translation. But I am excited for it to finally get an actual release, and it's getting a physical release too. So that's exciting in just a few months too. So that's gonna be nice.
Klonoa 1 and 2 coming to all platforms as a ground-up remake of the first two games with graphics closer to the originals than to the Wii game.
I'm stoked about those too.
More Klonoa.
Yes.
Those are. I mean, we did an episode on those that I don't remember doing.
We did the first Klonoa. Yeah.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
It's a good game. Advance Wars 1 and 2 gets an April release date. Previously, it was supposed to come out last December, so it's nice to see it on the docket. They also, I think, announced that they're going to be doing voice acting for all the characters, which is a cool thing.
Right.
And they are also, I don't know if we knew this before or not, but they're introducing Rewind.
Yes.
Which is extremely critical for the first Advance Wars because, man, that's one of those games where, like, no, you need to solve it the way the designer wanted you to, and if you don't, you're fucked.
Seriously.
Konami's Getsu Fumadin gets released now. It's out now. Go play it. It's getting okay reviews and it looks gorgeous. What a gorgeous looking game.
Absolutely.
My concern is it looks like it's also going to be really hard.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to get it on PC and then cheat if I need to.
Yep.
Portal 1 and 2 coming to Switch this year because everything is.
That's weird that that Valve is releasing their own dedicated handheld hybrid device. Right. And also releasing games on Nintendo's handheld hybrid device.
Valve don't give a shit. They're just going to do their Valve thing.
Right?
They're kind of in that Microsoft camp of like, we're just going to do whatever.
Right?
Wii Sports getting a sequel called Nintendo Switch Sports on, guess what, Switch. It's not free or included. It's going to be, do we have a price on this? Is it $60?
$50.
$50 for Wii Sports on the Switch. I know people are excited for this. They've added some online play, some new games.
Actually, it looks like it's $40 digital. It's $50 physical, and it comes with a leg strap.
I'm sorry, a what?
A leg strap.
For what?
So that you can strap your Joy-Con to your legs, so you can kick the soccer ball.
Oh, okay. I know people are very excited for this, and more power to them. I'm glad people are excited. I'm not probably going to spend $40 on Wii Sports again. Wii Sports also had a sequel. It was Wii Sports Resort on the Wii.
There was also Wii Sports Club on the Wii U.
And I feel like nobody gave a shit about those.
Yeah.
Because they cost money. Because the magic of Wii Sports was that it was included with every Wii.
I bought all of those. I still have all of those.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
How are they, Saturn?
They're good. They've each got at least one original thing that is neat. But Wii Sports Club, despite the fact that its neat things all use the gamepad, we still only played bowling. So, you know.
In less retro news, Metroid Dread is getting a new hard mode. Fuck you. And also an easy mode, quote, for Metroid newcomers.
What I loved about this announcement is they had mentioned update coming to Metroid. And we were all like, oh, are they going to fix the difficulty? And they immediately say, with the new harder one-hit kill mode. And we're like, what the fuck is wrong with you,
We all lost
Nintendo?
our minds for a minute, and then they're like, also, easy mode for stupid idiot babies.
Right?
You're like, dang. Now, do we know if you have to start a new game to do the easier mode?
You do.
Fuck them.
Yeah, and
fuck them.
It was available
all to pieces.
Later that day. You can play it right now.
So I got to start the whole fucking game over and do all those goddamn Emmy segments again?
If you want to play it on easy mode, yes.
Fuck off.
So I have not. I was considering starting another game. I haven't yet, but just to try the easy mode, see what it's like.
Leave it to Nintendo to finally give you easy mode, make you have to restart your game for it, and insult you when they announce
right?
it. Fuck off, Nintendo. Unfuck off for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe getting 48 new tracks by the end of 2023. They're included for free with Nintendo Switch Online Plus.
Right.
And if you want to buy the season pass form, I think it's $25.
Yeah.
Which that's a shitload of tracks. Honestly, it feels like they should have been doing this since Mario Kart 8 came out. Yeah. And I don't know why they haven't been, but I'm glad that they are now.
I'm guessing sales are finally starting to slip a little.
Yeah, it's also kind of puts the kibosh on Mario Kart 9 news, which I know a lot of people have been really hoping for. I don't think we're seeing it this generation.
Not me either.
I think the Switch is going to go for 5 more years, and I don't think we're seeing a new Smash or a new Mario Kart till the next generation.
Yeah, I
just
could
don't
definitely see
it.
that. I did notice that they also announced that Majora's Mask is coming to Nintendo Switch Online.
Yes.
And somebody online pointed out to me that just like in 2000, Majora's Mask requires an expansion pack. I had not put that together until I saw it online. I was like, that's clever. That's clever.
You know, I'm having a problem with Nintendo Switch Online before we get to the topic. And because I'm not willing to put a real amount of hours into any game that is on a live service that I don't own the game.
Correct.
And that I know one day they're going to say, hey, we're cutting off the servers for Nintendo Switch Online. So you no longer have these games.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And I know it's dumb. Like, you should just play the game and enjoy the game. And if you don't get to save your game for forever, then when you go back in 5 years, you got to start over because you probably would anyway. No big deal. But it's something about like investing these hours into progress and knowing that at any day they can decide to take it away from me, and knowing factually that eventually they will. Makes it so that I'm extremely reluctant to play anything that isn't like pretty much an arcade game on Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah, I'm with you. Or multiplayer. I'll play some multiplayer.
Yeah, if it's like a game, like if we're going to sit down and play a multiplayer game, sure. But like sitting down and playing Earthbound, I'm never going to do it because I don't want them taking my Earthbound save away from me in 5 years when they shut down NSO.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't... It's frustrating.
Like even just owning it digital, I'm like, but at least then I have a right to that digital copy and it's downloaded and they're not going to just rip it off my Switch. I've paid for it. They can't.
They're probably not going to.
Yeah, they could, but it would be a legal gray area. It would be pretty unprecedented for them to just remotely delete a game off my Switch.
Oh, it was an accident. And also, we've deleted them off our servers so you can't re-download.
And also, fuck you. You can re-download it if you get Nintendo Switch Online plus.
Yeah. The plus means better.
And so I remember when NSO came out, I was pretty stoked on it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people were being down, and I've kind of changed my tune. I'm like, man, I'm not going to put in hours unless you guarantee me that when this service is over, you're going to let me keep those ROMs on my Switch and keep my saves on my Switch.
No, not a chance. They're not.
Not a chance in hell. And it's like, I'm just not going to fucking play a 30-hour RPG on it then.
No. Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I've not been real happy with the Switch Online experience in general because even the multiplayer seems a little janky. Like on the NES games, it's fine.
There is some jank.
Yeah.
I'd say it's reasonable. It's playable, and I've done a lot of the alternative, the RetroArch Online.
Oh yeah.
I'd say for what it is, it functions better than any existing alternative. So I'll give them that credit.
Right, for the multiplayer on the retro games, it's really good. I'm pretty impressed with that. I've heard the N64 is not great, but the NES, Super NES has both been pretty good. I was talking more about other games that are online on the system.
People
have been
do
a
seem
janky.
to have some complaints. Yeah.
So it feels weird that I'm getting a chance to rent some games that I can already play on 1,000 other platforms, and also I can play things
saves
online in an awkward way. That just doesn't feel like it's worth it to me.
Well, that brings us to the topic at hand.
Now that we're done bitching.
We're going to talk about Pony Canyon.
Yes.
This week, and we're going to answer the age-old question: what even is a pony canyon?
It's a canyon with ponies in it.
It is a canyon full of ponies. Yes. It is also a very odd Japanese publisher with a focus on Western games, which you don't see a lot.
No.
And I do kind of want to give like a brief aside. Sometimes, for people that don't listen to After Hours, sometimes we pick topics because I want Saturn to tell me about something that I've heard about, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes those topics turn into kind of non-topics because it turns out there's really basically no information there. And so on After Hours, I was like, Saturn, let's do an episode where you tell me about Pony Canyon. And I said it because Pony Canyon is kind of, and this is really kind of getting into first encounters with them. FCI and Pony Canyon is one of those names that I've just kind of always heard in the retro gaming space.
Yeah.
But I never really knew anything about them. And now I'm just going to make Saturn tell me about them. So if this episode's kind of weird or short, that's why.
Yeah.
Because it turns out Not a whole lot of detailed information about Pony Canyon, and it's a lot more boring than you probably thought it would be, being named Pony Canyon.
No, actually, there's a ton of information about them. It's just, as a video game company, there's not
right, very little video game. I feel like there's another company we covered, and it was like they quit doing video games, and there just wasn't much to say about them. God, who was that?
I don't remember.
Probably so many of them. Pony Canyon was founded on October 1st, 1966 in Minato, Tokyo, Japan. Known outside of Japan as Fuji Senkai. Sankai. What Saturn said? Communications International. FCI.
Yes.
FCI was founded in 1986 in New York, New York.
Yes.
So you've probably heard of them as FCI.
Right. Yeah. If you're outside of Japan. I also had a few FCI games back in the day, but then when I would play ROMs and I would see the Pony Canyon name, I was just like, that's stupid. What even is that? Why does the title screen say Pony Canyon? That's the dumbest thing. And then eventually I learned it was the same company, and it made sense.
It was mostly listening to retro video game podcasts, and they'd be like, oh yeah, Pony Canyon did that port, and I'd be like, fucking who? Who's Pony Canyon?
So if you're in Japan, Pony Canyon is this massive company, and how could somebody not have heard about it? That would be like somebody from another country being like, who the fuck is NBC Universal Pictures?
They kind of remind me of like Virgin.
Mm-hmm.
They have lots of recording artists, and we're going to talk about their non-video game stuff briefly. But it feels a lot like just kind of a multimedia company like Virgin that in the 80s and 90s did video games like Virgin.
Right.
And if you're in the UK, ran a lot of megastores.
Yeah. Now,
I think we had Virgin megastores too,
did.
but not many.
Yeah. And also, there was kind of a thing in the 80s and 90s where a lot of established media companies were getting into the video game business because they didn't know what was going to happen in that space, and they didn't want it to get away from them. And spoiler, it did. It absolutely got away from the established media industries. But you did see a lot of them getting into it. Like the NES game Solstice was published by a company called CSG. That was a consortium of CBS, the television network, and Sony Music.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the people you expect to be publishing games now. And then there was also like Crash Bandicoot was published by Universal Pictures, and there were some Saturn games published by 20th Century Fox. It's just there was a weird era there where all the established old world media companies were like, oh, we got to get in on that. It just happened earlier in Japan, which is why we see this on NES games and not on PS1 games.
Also, the Pony Canyon logo, I recognize. It's like an eyeball.
Yeah.
And hopefully I remember to make it the show art.
Oh, it's also the FCI logo. So if you've seen
it's the same.
Any
it's the weird
NES FCI games, it's the same logo.
It occurs to me that it looks like it's just a Japanese flag that they drew a circle and some eyelashes on to turn it into an eyeball. That's kind of what it looks like. As far as not video game output, in October 1966, the company was originally formed as a record publishing label as a division of Nippon Broadcasting System. Yep. In 67, Nippon Broadcasting System merged with Nippon Cultural Broadcasting, Fuji Television, and Sankai Shimbun, which is a newspaper, to create Fuji Senkai. Say it.
Fuji Senkai.
Fuji Senkai Communications Group.
Yes.
In 1970, the record label abandoned the NBS name and rebranded as Pony Incorporated based on the product names they'd used in previous years. Also in 1970, FCG formed another record label called Canyon Records. Canyon was 60% owned by Pony.
Yeah.
Thus, in 1987, Pony Inc. and Canyon Records officially merged to form Pony Canyon.
Yeah, that's when they finally put all the ponies in the canyon.
And that's in I don't know why nobody went, should we pick a different name? No, it's Pony and Canyon put together.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you have corporations that are just named a thing.
Yeah. And and it didn't seem to be there's I'm not going to pretend like I know Japanese culture because I absolutely do not. But I have read enough about Japanese culture to have heard that they do seem to have this thing with using random English words as names for things without necessarily bothering with whether or not it is related to the meaning of that English word.
Or makes sense. Or yeah.
So it feels like it's one of those situations.
They're also, according to Wikipedia, known by the shorthand Pony Can, which is also my favorite.
Yeah, also Pony Ka. for a little while there.
I think Pony Ka is actually, was that not actually a division of Pony Canyon?
It was.
So, because Pony Can just seems to be like, hey, this is how we shorten it. Pony Ka was actually like, we have made this subsidiary that is a shortening.
Right.
Let's talk video games. There were video games.
Also, as a quick aside, anytime, before I realized who they were or how any of this worked, anytime that I would be looking for old Japanese media online and I would find like a CD or a DVD or something, and it just said on it, copyright whatever year Pony, I thought that was just a knockoff Sony. I thought it was like the pirated version. For years.
It occurs to me that there was Pony Incorporated. You gotta wonder,
right?
It would have been long after Sony was incorporated and well known. I mean, by 1970, Sony was around.
Yeah,
they were a known name.
Yeah, it was just Pony and Sony hanging out in Japan.
So you would buy your Sony stereo and you would get Pony records to play on it.
Well, I don't know if Sony Music was around yet, so maybe Sony was also publishing music.
Oh, yeah.
I know they absolutely are now because they bought Columbia Records.
Definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. But yeah, Pony and Sony.
Yep. Good old Pony and Sony. I just imagine them holding hands, running around in the fields.
Tell me about their video game output.
Yeah. So in 82, they entered the game publishing business, again, under the name Pony Ka.
Mm-hmm.
Just Ponyca. And their earliest games were mostly on the MSX and the NEC PC-88, the FM7. A lot of early Japanese computers. It was mostly simple arcade ports as well as localizations of Western releases.
I think they did some FM Towns Marty releases as well.
Yeah, a lot of FM stuff. So it's kind of weird. It's like the opposite of what we often talk about, because we regularly talk about localized Japanese games coming to the West. So it was a little weird to be researching this and looking at something that was basically the opposite, because they did a lot of Japanese localizations of Western games. And among their earliest successes as far as original games, they published some Compile's early games, NES game Lunar Pool, which was also on PC-88, as well as Compile's shmup Zanuck on the NES.
Yes,
which I've enjoyed. I have some fun with Zanuck.
Compile in general is just fantastic. They're the Blazing Lasers people. They're the Spriggan people. They just just do good games.
Oh yeah,
they just do really. I don't think I've played a Compile game I didn't like. Although they got a little weird. I think they still exist, don't they?
Yes, as Compile Heart, and they do some things that, like, all their shmups I enjoy. Their non-shmups probably not for me. They might still be great games, but they're not for me.
Yeah, they did Alien Crush. Mm-hmm. They did Guardian Legend, which I know I've mentioned a million times, and Gavelius, which is more celebrated than I feel like it gets credit for. But Compile stuff.
Oh yeah. And it's nice that they were when Compile was looking for publishers, good old Pony Canyon was there.
Good old Ponyka.
Their biggest early success was from the localizing and porting early games in the Ultima series. We were talking about Ultima Online not that long ago.
Yes,
and they ported Ultima to various Japanese platforms, and they multiple Ultima games. Eventually, they got to Ultima 3 on NES in '87. And they would continue to work with Origin on bringing Ultima games to other consoles and Japanese computers through 1995. So for about 10 years, they were just bringing Ultima to Japan and to Japanese consoles. Ultima 3 on NES was basically a full remake of the game. New soundtrack, new graphics. It's virtually a new game at that point.
Now, this one I looked up because... when we were doing the notes for it, you were like, they did Ultima, so you're going to have to do that, because I don't know.
I played it back in the day. I just didn't get it, and then I turned it off.
Yeah, so Ultima 3, which is Exodus, Ultima 3 Exodus, they remade it on the NES, and what's fascinating about it is, first of all, as far as I know, this is the first home console port of an Ultima game. Now, I believe they ported Ultima 1 and 2 to Japanese PCs.
Right.
But when moving it from a PC platform to console, they basically remade the damn game.
Yeah.
Completely new soundtrack. They redid the whole tile set, and they added lots and lots of dialogue. If you're if you just casually were looking at it, you would be forgiven for mistaking it for a Dragon Quest game. Honestly, it really kind of looks like one. And that's a very visually very different from traditional Ultima 3 Exodus, which kind of used weird sort of stick figure-y looking people.
Right.
But they had to simplify a whole lot of the game's interfacing because it's got 2 buttons.
And also, this would have been either the same year or the year after Dragon Quest came out on Famicom. So they they were clearly inspired by that.
Yeah. They also did some Dungeons and Dragons games.
Yep.
They published the Marionette developed NES port of Pool of Radiance, and Marionette is a company that they work with a lot in this era. Because if we didn't mention it before, Pony Canyon didn't make any of these games.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, anyway.
I've not been able to find a single game that they developed.
Right.
They are exclusively a publisher, but they seem to work closely, like with Compile, they worked closely with Marionette, and they developed the port of Pool of Radiance, which I don't believe was the first D&D game on the system, but it was the first D&D RPG on the system.
Yeah.
And they had to make some pretty massive changes to Pool of Radiance just to make that even function at all with 2 buttons. Yeah. Dr. Chaos was another NES game they published, also developed by Marionette. That one I feel maybe a lot of people know because it's I don't know about a well-known NES game, but I feel like it has very striking box art.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it on the show a handful of times, just because it's one that I enjoyed, because it's this weird, it's this weird mix of 2D platformer. It's not a good platformer, by the way. Don't expect a good game there. Mixed with this first-person investigative mode that's almost point and click and
it's
mostly
a weird
broken
adventure game thing.
Yeah. So I enjoy it. It's not a good game though. I don't recommend playing it, but go play it.
That one was also developed by Marionette.
Yeah.
But they didn't just do the Western RPGs in this era. When we get a little bit later, they did publish Super Pitfall on NES, which is one of the worst named NES games because it's not on Super Nintendo, but it has Super in the title.
It also has nothing to do with Pitfall, by the way.
They published Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure.
Yeah.
On Super Nintendo, which I played. There was a Genesis version of that, right?
It was on. It's on everything. Super NES, Genesis, I played PlayStation, Game Boy Advance. It's on everything.
That was like one of the only games I owned on both Genesis and Super Nintendo, and I played the shit out of both, and it's terrible.
It's not a good game. I don't enjoy it. I was so angry at it when it came out too, because it got a lot of good press when it came out. People acted like it was a big thing, and I loved Pitfall on Atari, and I played that, and I was like, "What is this garbage? This isn't what I wanted." So. Yeah.
In this kind of late 80s, early 90s era is sort of the highlight of Pony Canyon and FCI's output.
Yeah, well, that's because that's kind of when they stopped output.
Yeah. So tell me about their slow, sad decline.
Yeah. So once the console started getting more complex, they really just couldn't handle it. They struggled to even justify their presence. By the mid 90s, they had shifted almost entirely to publishing minor games. Nowhere near what they were putting out before. And then eventually they just trickled down to just a handful of licensed titles, some board game ports on Game Boy. And then by the time the PS2 came around, it was just interactive idol galleries for the pop artists that they had signed with their music label. Mm-hmm. There is technically some stuff after that, but it's negligible and not really worth even mentioning. It's just kind of a slow fart until
they did publish some version of Bubble Ghost.
Yes.
Which I feel was kind of its most famous incarnation was probably the Game Boy version.
Yeah, Game Boy Black and White.
And I don't know if that's the version they did. It is. I just checked.
Yeah.
They did publish the Game Boy version of Bubble Ghost. That's probably one of their, outside of Western RPGs, one of their more well-known titles that they published.
Also, Hydlide. They converted Hydlide to NES. That was one they got attention.
Yeah, I'll stick to saying Bubble Ghost is.
God, that's an awful game. I don't care what Japan says. Just don't. Anyway,
Hydlide.
Ugh.
Anyway, where did they end up after this?
Oh, that's about it. So let's talk about the Western side. Let's talk about FCI
Yes,
instead.
FCI.
Because that just, it's sad. So FCI was just the Western branch of Pony Canyon, obviously. And most of their output ended up being just localized Pony Canyon games. And since so many of Pony Canyon's games were ports of Western PC games, that meant that FCI published those same PC games on consoles in the US. So they just got the rights from Origin or whoever to publish their games. And as Pony Canyon's output was slowing in Japan, in the Super NES era, FCI picked up the slack by localizing other Japanese companies' PC ports, which is weird that they were still sticking to mostly PC ports. Just they went to other companies.
Right.
I noticed Imagineer's port of Sim Earth on Super NES was published by FCI in America for some reason. I don't know why they would pick that up and not, Maxis themselves, but whatever. And then other PC conversions that were put out by FCI, like Might and Magic 3, were developed specifically for the Western market. They never came out in Japan. And FCI also began to outsource WCW wrestling titles when Pony Canyon stopped making wrestling games in Japan, just because it was a successful license. So they just found other Western companies. I think Beam ended up making one, and maybe Software Creations. I don't remember what their name is, but some companies that are known for making Super NES and Genesis games were working with FCI in that era.
It's like you said in the beginning of the show. It's fascinating to see a Japanese publisher, because they're continuing with Might and Magic, which they did the Super Nintendo port of,
right?
To see them focusing so heavily on Western RPGs, and releasing so many of them on home console.
Yeah, it's just,
this is not a genre that is represented on consoles in this era.
Yeah, it feels like this is the bizarro world of the companies that I normally pay attention to.
And they continued working with Origin Systems for a long time. It did a bunch of the Ultima stuff.
Yeah, and they had actually got the rights to do Wing Commander 2 on Super NES after I think Mindscape did the first Wing Commander on Super NES.
Yeah.
But that never came to be. They canceled it when they went under.
Yeah. Which was just what, mid-90s when they
closed FCI.
They threw in the towel. They were done with it.
Though they did publish a game called Metal Morph, which is one of Origin's only console-only games, if not the only one. I was confused to see that Origin had developed this game when it was console-only. But they did let FCI publish that. So I guess their relationship was pretty solid at that point.
How bizarre.
Right?
Metal Morph. I guess Origin has a lot of games that are not Ultima.
Right. Or
I
Wing
just
Commander.
don't know about any of it. Or Wing Commander. Yeah. Metal Morph, I've not played it.
Yeah.
But it looks like crap.
Yeah, I've not played it either. It does not look like anything I want to play, to be honest.
It's apparently just a run and gun, but it got a positive review. So,
in fairness, nothing else Origin has put out has been anything that's appealed to me, so I'm not exactly their
okay, well, let's
market.
slow down, okay? All right. Let's just relax.
I'm sorry, Lord British. I did not mean to insult your company.
I keep trying to get into the Ultima games, and I cannot enjoy any of them once they stop being just kind of like little 8-bit affairs. Like they're fun, tiny little RPGs, but when they get big, I'm like, oh man. The Western RPGs in the like early 3D era, they're rough.
Yeah,
they're real rough, man.
Until Morrowind figured out how to do it.
No, it didn't figure out how to do it. And I know Morrowind fans are going to hate that I said that, because Morrowind is still very well regarded in the Elder Scrolls space.
Yeah.
But Morrowind just did it better than everyone else at the time.
Yeah.
And then they continued to do it better than Morrowind.
Right.
But man, just woof. I feel like it's because Western RPGs hit that 3D era sooner because they were PC.
Right. Yeah.
So they just had more power to work with, I guess.
Yeah. Whereas Japanese RPGs really didn't take advantage of 3D until the PS2 era. Prior to that, it was just polygons on top of a flat backdrop.
Yeah. Let's talk Legacy, Saturn. Their long-lived legacy.
So they didn't go anywhere. They're still there. They're still a huge company in Japan.
Oh yeah.
They just gave up on video games. They decided that was not a market they wanted to keep pursuing. They're
I just looked. They have 450 employees at Pony Canyon as of now.
sounds about right.
It's a sizable company.
Yeah, but they publish a ton of music in Japan.
Yep.
They're a huge record label.
They also seem to be making a lot of money off of licensing anime series for streaming.
Yes.
None of them that I recognize, but I'm sure that's a lot of cash.
Right. And also they are a division of Fuji Television, which is a huge company in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was trying to research this, and I was looking through just the entire library of games they published, I noticed that GameFAQs at least pointed me to some games on Steam published in 2018 by Pony, thinking that it's the same company. I don't think it is, because when I looked at these games, one, they're not good, and two, I can't find anything that relates them back to the original Pony Canyon. So I think it's just some other company that's using that name.
That's strange.
But no, it appears they just completely gave up on video game development by the early 2000s and just left the space. I'm sure they probably still license music to video games, but they're not involved in the game industry anymore.
Yeah. As far as final thoughts, Pony Canyon is a dumb name.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's neat seeing a Japanese company with, like you said, such an inverse focus, you know. Like it wasn't weird for American companies to be pretty focused on Japanese stuff in this era, but that was because that's where all the video game systems were coming from.
Right.
All the American video game systems had tanked by this point, and they were trying to like figure out where they wanted to be.
Right.
But in the like late 80s and the early 90s, kind of before the, sort of early to mid FMV era where you saw some American consoles kind of rearing their heads.
Right.
It was, everything was Japanese owned. So it's strange to see such a weird inversion of traditional publishing practices in this era.
Yeah, that was my favorite part about researching this, was just seeing that reverse version of what I normally am looking at, because I spend so much time looking at localizations and translations and cultural differences in the games that I have played, which are mostly Japanese developed, and it made me wonder what kind of reverse problems people over there are saying, like, oh, they totally butchered Ultima 3 in the translation. I'm curious how all of that is handled, and seeing somebody who was so focused on that. And it's a shame they died when they did, because Western games did start to get a little bit more popular over there in the late 90s and early 2000s.
True.
However, a lot of the Western companies just started opening up offices over there, so I don't know if they would have had the space to still publish anything by that point.
True.
So that might have been what pushed them out, was when EAs and Activisions and all that started moving into Japan, and maybe they just couldn't find public partners to license games from.
Yeah. Well, where you can find partners is at patreon.com/retrowarriors, where you can get lots of friends to hang out with in our Discord, and Talking Wizards is there, and After Hours has a new theme. So if you want to get that stuff, then we have Patreon, and there's a link in the show description that you can go to.
Brilliant.
Please also rate and review us. It does help the show a lot. And we want to thank the following patrons for their kind contributions to the show, starting with Kevin Mayer
and Chris Hickson.
Justin's transitions are now my new favorite part of the show.
You are the master of segue. David Martin.
Sponsored by Honest Bob's Dildo and Butt Plug Emporium.
Jason Frudnick and his Frog Fred.
Austin Wheeler.
Dr. Jason Tharp.
Sean Schaller.
And Chris Forbes.
Are all the patrons we want to thank, and we want to thank you for sticking around after the ending theme.
Yeah.
For our producer Guy, who has hopefully finished his sandwich and is now going to tell us what kind of sandwich it was. I know we've all been waiting patiently throughout the show.
Stay tuned for sandwich talk.
So that we could see how it ends up. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. And as always, let us cling together. after party with our producer Guy.
Hi,
He's
Guy.
got a sandwich. Guy, what kind of sandwich did you make? Guy?
I'm just fucking with you.
Oh no, he didn't survive his sandwich.
You didn't ask if I was ready, so I was just gonna lay out for 5 seconds.
You know, I always do, but you're always just like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna skip it.
Yeah.
Just skip it. What
I
kind of sandwich?
had a ham sandwich.
Oh yeah,
Oh, with cheese?
No, it was just ham and bread and pickles.
that's not bad.
Was there
I
no
could see
condiment
that.
on it?
Pickles a condiment?
No, pickle's a pickle. Condiments is
You're
sauces.
in a pickle. 'Cause
You know,
you
there are
can't-
condiments that aren't sauces. Pickle's a condiment.
Thank you.
All right, what is a condiment then? Is a condiment not a sauce?
No, a condiment is anything that you add to a sandwich other than the main ingredient.
Yeah.
I would say pickle is a main ingredient if all you have on it is pickle and ham.
No,
No,
ham is
like
the main
relish is a
ingredient.
condiment. It's not a sauce exactly.
Yeah, but that's chopped up and it's kind of sauce-like.
You're kind of sauce-like.
You could squeeze it through a tube.
I consider the vegetables to be part of the condiments.
Thank you.
That's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
If I like ordered a burger and it said no condiments on it and they didn't put vegetables on it, I'd be like, well, I wanted the vegetables. I just wanted the sauces gone.
Most places, if you say no condiments, will not give you the vegetables. I know that because I usually order my hamburgers that way places, and they will not.
I
put them
guess
on
because I always just have everything on everything. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a picky enough eater to have made this. I've learned so much about condiments.
Not only are you not a picky eater, you are an actively unpicky eater. I don't know how else to describe this. We were talking about it the other day.
What does that even mean?
Like you were talking to me and you were like, I was talking to my wife the other day and she said that she wasn't hungry, or she was hungry but she didn't know what she wanted to eat, and that didn't make any sense to me.
No, what I said was, I was talking to my wife and she was like, oh, I'm hungry but I don't know what I want to eat. I wish I could just have eaten and not have to go through eating.
Yeah.
And I said something like, hey, I asked her, I was like, if you could like eat a food pill, if food went away tomorrow and instead you just ate a pill and then you weren't hungry and you just had to take 3 pills a day, like, would you do that? And she was like, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, probably.
Like immediately.
I'm in.
I was like, I would kill myself. That would be actively horrible for me.
So I would still want meals from time to time, but
No.
But I would say at least 5 days a week I'd be fine with pills. Yeah.
My whole day is just looking forward to the next thing I'm gonna eat. Like I love food.
See,
Love food.
my whole day is planning out my meals and then being frustrated that I'm having to spend so much time either preparing or eating meals when I could be doing other things.
I got right up out of bed this morning. The first thing I did was cook for an hour. And it just was great. I remember I was standing there this morning looking in the pan at the bacon cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just watching it cook. And I was just standing there thinking, man, food is great. Bacon's great. I love cooking bacon and eating bacon. Like I just was standing there having these like dumb thoughts.
Nice.
Just the other day, I think it was in the same conversation with Guy. I was like eating food. I don't remember what I was eating, but I was just standing in my pantry eating and thinking to myself how great food is.
Yeah, that was in the middle of that conversation.
I do love food, man.
That's pretty good.
You
Love
do.
it.
You love food. I'm glad you love food. I love you. So
Aw.
Oh, so sweet. But Guy, you don't love food.
I don't hate food. I just like specific flavor profiles, and I've ventured outside of those flavor profiles and found it's not for me.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm with
yeah.
you there.
Generally you get like spicier than like extra pepper, and I'm like, out. No, thank you.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, the spicy I'm totally down for. That I'm with. Yeah.
I am always looking for new food experiences all the time.
I am a notoriously picky eater, and so there are plenty of things that I don't eat, but I'll always go for spicy. That's one of the things I'll go for.
Like if I go to a restaurant, like I'll order what I know I like because I don't want to pay money for something I might not like.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm like cooking at home, I'll buy all kinds of weird shit. I'll be like, this week I'm learning how to do stuff with cabbage. I have huge cabbage in my fridge right now. And I'm just like, I don't know, you can do stuff with cabbage. Cabbage is good. Like I'm just figuring out cabbage right now. It's very exciting.
No, man, I go to Salada like almost every day and get the exact same wrap. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very much a routine eater. I will eat the same things over and over again if I can.
I'm actually not allowed in my house because my wife will get upset if she has the same meal like 2 times in the same month.
Oh wow, That's
so that does
weird.
kind of compel us. Like right now I'm doing a lot of cabbage. I just bought a wok, so I'm doing a lot of stir fries and cabbage and rice. And I did like a week of that, and she was like, I'm done with the stir fries and the cabbage and the rice. And I was like, well, I'm still figuring it out. And she was like, yeah, but don't feed it to me. Make me something else. It's like, I'm tired of
Nice.
it. Like when I'm figuring a food out, I'll eat it every day for every meal and tweak it a little bit until I figure it, until I get it where I like it. And I enjoy that process of making the same food over and over and over, getting it right, and then like having that in my repertoire.
When I was first starting my diet and trying to lose weight, my meal, 2 of my 3 meals a day every day was a plain turkey sandwich on bread, just turkey, cheese, bread. That was it, and I was fine with that. Once I realized that like I could eat that and lose weight, I was like, oh, this is good. I could do this.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I've done that lots.
Yeah.
I bought a full gallon of unsulfured blackstrap molasses and just spent a month figuring out barbecue sauce. just to do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, now I can make barbecue sauce.
You can buy barbecue sauce. They sell it in stores.
Right. Or I can make it.
Yeah, it's right there on the shelf.
Right. Well, I mean, molasses is like a lot of it, so there you go. I don't know. It's like I like that. I like that process.
Until you said that, I'd never realized that molasses was in barbecue sauce, and now I know. So I've learned something.
There you go. Some molasses and some vinegar and some mustard and a little touch of ketchup in mine, some brown sugar. Oh man, it's good. Guy, what did you actually have to talk about before we harangued you with this sandwich nonsense?
I didn't have anything to talk about. I just like talking to you guys.
Nice.
My kid, so my older kid is in like volleyball, I guess practice or whatever.
Yeah.
Like she's not in a league. They don't have games, but it's like a skills development sort of thing.
Okay.
For an hour, like every Friday.
She's in like a volleyball class, basically. Yeah. Okay.
And so I've been going, to support her. It's not a day when I have kids, but whatever.
Yeah.
I missed a couple weeks. One because I was going to a hockey game, and the other because I had the Rona, and that sucked.
Yep.
But like, anyway, so I went to that. So I went to last week, kind of unexpectedly because I thought maybe I was still gonna have Rona, but so I didn't tell anybody. But I showed up because I had tested negative or whatnot. And my youngest kid didn't show up that time, and so I think he showed up this time specifically just because he thought I might. And he showed up with like 3 pretzels. And he's like, "Hey, Dad, I made you some pretzels." I'm like, "Great." So I did this like
big soft pretzels, or
yeah, they're like
okay, all right,
sort of like.
I mean, he didn't show up with like a single rolled gold and was like, "Here, I made you a pretzel." Is what I mean.
No,
like
no,
big
it was
bready
like
pretzels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But he had made them from scratch, and he was telling me all about it. Like,
wow. Did he do the thing where you boil them in is it lye?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to boil them in lye, which is like dangerous to work with.
Yeah,
Wow.
he did
the whole thing.
They did the egg wash, did the like hand kneaded it, and he's like 8, like he had his mom's help, right?
Yeah.
But he did most of the steps. He's telling me he's all excited about it, and then this is like 20 minutes into this volleyball stuff, and I'm mostly watching, my oldest do her thing, and then he just kind of stops and he goes, "Dad," I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Are you gonna eat one of your pretzels?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I was gonna eat it later. I'm not really that hungry." He's like,
You can't. You got to eat the pretzel, dude.
He's like, "Well, are you sure you don't want it?" I was like, "No, I do." Like, all right, I'll eat some of your pretzel. And then his mom goes, "Wait, did you get 3 pretzels? Like one for him and then the other 2 for everybody else?" And he was like, "Well, no, I thought Kristen, my girlfriend." He goes, "I thought Kristen was coming, so I got one for Dad, one for her, and then one for me and you and my sister to share." and he goes, "Oh, yeah, and Mom, do you want some of the pretzel?" And she goes, "Not really." He goes, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Do you think Ender's gonna want any when she's done?" And I was like, "Maybe, maybe not." He goes, "All right, well then 1 pretzel for me, 1 you got to take home to Kristen, and then 1, can you eat it now?" I'm like, "Okay, bud, I'll eat your pretzel."
Did you eat it?
Yeah, I ate it. It was really good.
Nice.
Nice.
And they to be clear, they did the lye, not the baking soda, because I think you can use baking soda as a replacement for lye.
Dude, I don't know. They did it. They boiled it in something.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, that's neat. It was good?
Yeah, it was really good.
Man,
I was excited. My kid made me a food and brought it.
now I was going to learn to make pretzels a while back, and instead I did ginger beer.
Ooh, that sounds good too.
I didn't want to buy lye. Anyway, that's cool. It's cool that you did that.
Yeah.
Good for him. I did not cook until I was very much an adult.
Oh.
Did not cook anything ever.
When I was like 8, my dad taught me how to make fried eggs and scrambled eggs and pancakes. And then he
made you make him eggs and pancake.
And then he was like, "Well, you figured out cooking, so now you can go into the world." And then like 5 or 6 years later, my older sister was like, "No, you also have to learn how to make pasta." And so then I was done, and I was ready to go into the world.
You did it, Saturn.
Yeah.
Dude, I would, excuse me. I make stuff a lot. Well, not a lot, not as much as Justin a lot, but like.
All right.
I'll tell you what, if I didn't have 2 other people in my house demanding specialty meals different from the meal I'm cooking for myself 3 times a day, I would not cook nearly as much as I do. It's never, hey, let's talk about dinner. It's, what are you making for dinner? That's how I get asked.
Yeah.
That's how I get assigned my chore of the evening is, hey, what are you making me for dinner? And every now and then I'll go, I'm not making anything. What are you making? My poor wife is like, what? And then I'm like, I'm just kidding. It's cabbage. Anyway, you're saying, I'm sorry.
I don't remember.
You cook things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So but generally the response to me cooking things is fairly positive, right? People are like, "Oh, this is really good. What'd you do? How'd you make it?" I followed the instructions. I don't understand.
Yeah. I Googled this food and recipe, and then I did that.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, well, you did it really good." I'm like, "What? It tells you what to do."
I still get overwhelmed by the recipe sometimes when they don't use exact measurements, or when they start using terms I've not heard before, or if they refer to a pan that is slightly different than the pan that I have. I freak out and think maybe my pan isn't good enough, and then I think I can't make things.
Yeah, you just gotta do like a quick volumetric sort of calculation, and then you adjust your time.
That's all confusing. I can't.
I have a kitchen calculator, so I use that a lot.
Sounds handy.
It is, if you just Google kitchen calculator, it does all sorts of conversions and stuff. So it's great. And you can also like put in a recipe and it'll convert all of your measurements for a smaller serving size.
Nice.
Because sometimes I look stuff up and it's like 8 servings. So I put all the measurements in and I hit the convert button and switch to 2 and it fixes it. Anyway, I don't remember what I was saying. At all. I've gotten to where like I'm very critical of recipes. Like my wife will give me a recipe and I'll just go, I'm not fucking doing this. Because I cook frequently enough that I can tell when a recipe is bullshit, or sometimes I'll look at a recipe and I'll go, this doesn't taste good. And I'll know by looking at the recipe and then I'll make it. Usually what I'll do in that instance is I'll find a different recipe or I'll change the recipe as I'm making it. In the way that I think it would make it taste good. But every now and then it'll be a recipe that's just different enough that I don't trust myself to change it.
Yeah.
And so I'll just cook it as it is on the paper. And every time my wife will go, this doesn't taste good. I'll be like, I know. I could tell by the recipe that it was not going to taste good. And it did not. She also gets frustrated because every now and then she'll want to cook something.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, oh, it calls for sesame seeds. And I'll be like, I'm not buying fucking sesame seeds. She'll be like, but it calls for it. And I'll be like, yeah, but you're not going to taste a sesame seed unless you coat it in sesame seeds.
Right.
We're not putting sesame seeds in it. Which that's actually a bad example because I do like sesame seeds. But, just whatever like weird shit.
Right.
Like, well, you need this for garnish. And I'm like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
We're not going to garnish it because why would I garnish my dish at home? I'm not presenting it to Gordon Ramsay. Like I'm just going to eat it. No, I'm not.
But aren't you going to take a picture of it?
Family, Justin.
Yeah. I have learned when I plate dishes, I'll plate my wife's especially carefully because the better it looks on the plate, the more she enjoys the meal.
Nice.
And I didn't tell her for the longest time. And finally I told her and now she recognizes that I do it. And she's The worst part is I told her one night and she goes, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I noticed that mine always looks better."
Yeah, the only other thing that I learned how to cook before I became an adult was my grandmother's chocolate cake recipe. It's a chocolate pound cake with chocolate fudge frosting, and it you use I think it's 7 total cups of sugar between the cake and the frosting.
Well, a pound cake is called a pound cake because it's a pound of sugar, pound of butter, pound of eggs, pound of flour.
Yeah, it's just a lot of everything. And
recipes in the name.
Yeah, and both of my parents are very diabetic now and can't they
I love the phrase very.
Yes.
They're not a little diabetic.
No, they're very diabetic.
Very diabetic.
And while they keep eating sugar, they're not supposed to eat sugar. And and my mom keeps asking me if I can help her figure out a way to make her mother's chocolate pound cake with less sugar in it. And I'm like, I don't.
Just make her a quarter pound cake.
You know,
quarter pound of sugar.
Aspartame.
So I was like, what can I do to replace the sugar with Splenda in this and not make it garbage? And I can't. I don't know who to even ask to figure that out for me. So I keep saying, I'll look into it.
Email Senor Splenda.
Right.
There are conversion tables for non-sugar sweeteners because you don't want to use, because Splenda is way sweeter than sugar.
Right, exactly.
So you don't want to use the same amount. And I wouldn't recommend Splenda anyway. You'd want to use something else. But you can look up conversion tables for that stuff.
But will it keep the consistency more or less the same?
I mean, the answer is no.
Okay.
Whenever it's supposed to have a pound of sugar because it's a pound cake. So anytime you do that, you're basically going to be changing something about it. But if it's also been that long since she's had that pound cake, I think anything even approximating it, she'll probably appreciate, I'd imagine.
You know, you could try oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh,
this was a good joke and I fucked it up already.
It's all right.
The hard part, I guess, would be frosting. It's because frosting is
Oh yeah, you could use cotton candy or Sweet and Low, or you can try some Tootsie Roll.
Cotton candy is sugar. No sugar in this. It's just cotton candy.
Like 3 years ago, my dad's sister, who is a nurse and should know exactly what the requirements what health requirements they have. Yeah, she just made that cake. She just made it from scratch. Was like, I got this for you guys, and then she invited them to her house to have it, and she gave them both slices of this cake that was like maybe a 1/16 of an inch. She was like, you shouldn't have much because of your diabetes, but here you go. And
enjoy your torture. It'll be gone immediately.
Yeah, and then
give her like a quarter cake and then like a bucket of insulin.
Right, and then she and her sister both had like big slices of it right in front of them. So
Good God,
it's not pleasant.
Well, hey, we need to end this because we have another show to record tonight, and I've been looking at pictures of pretzels since Guy said pretzel, and now I have to go get a snack because they just look delicious.
Yeah.
Well, we also spent like 20 minutes just talking about food.
It's true.
That's true, but everybody loves food. Well, I was going to say that. Apparently not everybody loves food, but we all require it, so it's a common interest whether you like it or not. So get over it.
Kind of like sports.
Kind of like sports.
You don't require sports.
I was watching some show the other day and someone said we need the Wi-Fi and another person goes, you need air. And he goes, I have air. I need Wi-Fi. Oh, it's community. Oh, I like that. Anyway, thanks for listening, Guy. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a producer on the show. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye. Good night.
Bye.